have a second chance, Lo. I am not gonna waste it.
Hey everybody, it's Hannah Saulic, the head of video here at CinemaBlend, with Sean O'Connell, our managing editor and author of the Release the Snyder Cut book, and we are about to dive into part 6 of Zack Snyder's Justice League, titled Something Darker.
Ooh, I like that title because you think it assumes something with this movie, but it really isn't. It kind of teases where everything else is going to go. Again, if you know everything that happens in the nightmare. So, I mean, we just came off of chapter 5, which is a daunting chapter. And yet still not the meatiest. Yeah, not even close to being the meatiest. So, Hannah, without further ado, how are we going to tackle this? Where do we even begin?
Let's start, spoiler warning.
That's good to know.
Let's start with Clark returning to the Kent farm with Lois. And the first line that we get is,
You brought us here. You remembered.
This is home.
You spoke.
Did I not before?
and I was like, why on earth would someone think it was necessary to take the time to have Amy Adams, like to waste Amy Adams' time to have her record?
You smell good.
Did I not before?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand how Amy Adams was able to bite her tongue for the amount of stuff that they asked her to refilm for this movie. Like, I don't care how many NDAs you signed or how contractually obligated you are. Like, going back and rewatching her conversation with Diane Lane as Martha Kent, and then thinking about what Joss Whedon made those two brilliant actresses do, you know, makes me so angry.
I hope they both got really good paychecks.
Yeah, but even that, Hannah, it's not enough.
I agree.
It's not enough to make them do horrific line deliveries when they know in the back of their minds, I shot much better stuff than this.
I know.
And you're not using it. And so much of how the Kent farm scenes play out. Like, this was the moment that got me. This was the moment that where I was finally like choked up and starting to tear up. And it's largely when Martha shows up and sees her son, you know, again. Just a tremendous scene. I know that there's a lot of stuff that happens prior to this, but that's the moment that got me, and I was so on board with Superman's return.
So something I wanted to ask you about, because we've talked a lot about, there's a theory that when Clark was standing in that cornfield, a lot of people thought he was talking to Jonathan Kent instead. So were you surprised to see that it was really Lois in that conversation?
I was... Yeah, I guess. I guess I always kind of believed that he was talking to Lois because I think I knew that he was talking about the engagement ring.
Take that as a yes.
But that doesn't hide the fact that I am disappointed that we did not get another Jonathan Kent scene. Somebody who knows me really well DM'd me before they got a chance to watch their screener of it and said, because they know that I have an issue with Jonathan Kent and Clark and their development over the other two films, and they said, does this movie repair, you know, or change how you feel about the way that Clark and Jonathan Kent sort of have their relationship? And all I said, because I knew they hadn't seen it yet, was it's incomplete still. Because we'll get to the point when Clark goes to the ship and he hears the dueling monologues from both of his fathers. It's an effective moment. You know,
We can
I
talk
still
about
think
that now if you want.
Yeah, okay, we'll transition into that because Clark ends up going to his ship and before he ends up in the black suit. I honestly thought, I wished, and I hoped, and I really did think that Kevin Costner was going to come back. I actually thought that Russell Crowe might come back. I think I told somebody prior to us watching them that I thought we were going to get a chance to see both of those actors again. Mm-hmm. And I'd rather have seen Henry Cavill get the chance to share a scene with them than the choice of the monologues, the dueling monologues, and recycling lines from the previous films. It's still effective, you know. It's still a cool way to do it. But personally, I would have preferred to see Henry Cavill get a chance to share scenes with both of those actors.
See, I'm gonna disagree with you.
Oh, good.
Fight night.
Fun. Okay, so here's why. So I watched Man of Steel back-to-back BVS and then Zack Snyder's Justice League, which was great. My weekend worked out that way.
Nice.
And so something, because I really thought Jonathan Kent was going to show up. So something that I noticed in the conversations that Clark has with Jonathan Kent is that, in Man of Steel, obviously it's a lot of face-to-face conversations. He has his dad there to help him.
You're gonna have to make a choice. A choice of whether to stand proud in front of the human race or not.
BVS, it's kind of like that, I don't know if you want to call it it's in Clark's head or if you really want to believe that it's Jonathan Kent there, but that's kind of like stage 2 separation,
Okay.
Did the nightmares ever stop?
When I met your mother, she gave me faith that there's good in this world. I miss you, son.
I miss you too, Dad.
I think that if in Justice League he then had to talk to Jonathan Kent or Jor-El again, it would be like, well, then what did he learn here? Like for the last 2 movies, he's kind of like shown that he needs to like take on this stuff for himself and take responsibility. And at the end of BVS, before he died, when he came back, that's really what he had done, And then he died, so we didn't really get to see the resolution from that. So I kind of liked that it was like just him.
Yeah, all of that makes sense for the character, but counterpoint, I love Kevin Costner.
Fair.
So
put him in the movie, dang it.
More of him would be great. No, when you put it that way, yes, that makes a lot of sense. That it would instead sort of imply that the words of his fathers now truly live inside of him, and that he is finally evolved to he's evolved to the final stage of Superman, and now he's in his black suit. I also think, and again here we're nitpicking. But, we've been teased that this was going to be Flight 2.0. We've been calling it Flight 2.0 all this time, which is a tremendously inspiring scene from Man of Steel where he finally takes flight and, Zack does incredible camera work with the Hans Zimmer score behind it.
Yeah.
This one is over like that. He takes up into the air, he strikes his Jesus pose, and it's over. That's it. And so, a little bit disappointed. Just a little bit disappointed that when we got to that scene, I was like, "Oh, here we go. We're gonna get him in his black suit."
Yeah, this is one of the moments where I was like, I wish Zack would have lingered a little bit more, or like done some of his slow-mo stuff that we've been kind of complaining about for the last 5 videos. But
Superman gets a little bit truncated. Again, we're looking for reasons to nitpick. It's still a really great scene. It's still super effective.
Yes, and going back to the Kent farm right before we transition out of that scene, I love the line.
They wanted me back for a reason. I need to find out why.
Perfect. Again, why on earth would you cut that, Joss Whedon?
Because he's a hack. He's a hack.
He's as short-sighted as he is cruel.
So let's back up after kind of hopped around a little bit. We get the League returning.
Oh gosh, yes.
And I just love the way that each member greets Alfred. I enjoy that so much.
Alfred?
Good day, Mom.
The way that Cyborg just like blows right by him, and that Barry gets to be like his awkward little kid, like, oh my God, you're so cool, hi.
Yeah.
I just love it.
It's badass, Alfred.
I love Bruce's line.
Everyone, this is Alfred. I work for him.
Yes, that was fantastic. Yes, you do work for Alfred. God, love it.
And then strap in for an exposition dump. It's a lot of information about how we're heading to Russia.
But and I've seen in a lot of reviews, people's main critiques about Zack Snyder's Justice League are just, like length, same movie, stupid. And then a lot of people are talking about how it's really exposition heavy.
I never said that.
Do you think that there's any way that they could have gotten around that? Or do you think the exposition, especially in this scene, is kind of necessary?
In most cases, I think it's necessary. You're telling a much broader story and you have to fill in the gaps.
Period.
So, yeah, I don't mind it. I don't necessarily mind it, especially at a key moment like this. Like, you're setting up the finale. It's really establishing where the team is going to be going and how they're going to be getting to that point.
Remind me, how's that again?
With the power of love.
Barry.
And then we get Bruce recounting the Lois Lane is the key story.
She is. To Superman.
And this is where we get the name drop of the title.
I think it's something more. Something darker.
Which, loved.
Yeah, and it's him kind of recognizing the potential of the nightmare future. which is fascinating to see. And these are all little, threads that were laid down to be picked up later. But you know what we don't get? Look, I don't want to keep comparing it to the theatrical, but isn't this around the time in theatrical when Bruce and Diana have their moment where Bruce is all bruised and he's recovering from...
Yes, it is.
I bet you thought I wasn't listening. Thank you.
Woof! God, that's an awful scene. That is an awful scene.
I much prefer Diana just being like, why are you being weird? And he's like, because I had a weird dream.
Although, let's go back a couple of chapters to when they almost grabbed the mouse at the same time. Wasn't that adorable?
We don't need to talk about that. These are wiped out from my memory.
It happens.
So something darker, definitely implies where we're heading with Lois and the potential of the future, and Bruce remembering the vision that he had of Barry. So that's fascinating. Fascinating to see Zack lay the groundwork for that.
Yes, and I like that it implies that the whole meaning of Lois Lane is the key wasn't so that she could calm him down at the Monument Park fight.
Correct.
Something darker.
Then we get the moment where the flying fox is now hovering above us. And I like this a lot because the movie has done a really good job up to this point to establishing how difficult it's been for Bruce to figure out how to get this tech up in the air. And it gives Cyborg a really important, I think, emotional win at this point. It's him sort of embracing what his power can do and putting it to really good use to bring this, like, the idea of the flying fox is really, really cool because they need it as a transport ship. But I love that the movie takes its time to establish that even though Bruce has this amazing tech and this really cool vehicle at his disposal, that he can't even get it to work 100%, or Alfred's having a hard time figuring out how to get it to work. And there are moments throughout it when you're like, they're tinkering on this damn thing again. Like, what? How come? But it's super important later because then it's Cyborg who gets to make it fly. And I think that that's so relevant to the character and such a nice little character beat. This is a unique take on Batman. And I do understand people who have read DC Comics their entire lives and want Batman to be a hard and fast way. Some people on our staff, including our very own Eric Eisenberg, have complained about the fact that it's not Batman who should be putting the team together.
Maybe a man who broods in a cave for a living isn't cut out to be a recruiter.
Batman in particular has to be dragged into the Justice League multiple times in the way that he's interpreted from different characters. And in fact, Batman goes so far as to have ways to take down every member of the League.
That's why I brought you together.
What?
But the line that hits me around this time that is like out of character is when Batman says to Alfred, like,
Faith, Alfred. Faith.
I think it's okay for this interpretation of the character. I don't mind that Zack is trying to do something different with Bruce, like to show that Bruce has kind of come a long way from when we first got to know him in BVS. But it's almost like he moved the needle a little bit too far towards.
But I did like, though, when he, like, whatever he says to Cyborg, though.
Flight is its nature. Yours too.
I don't know if I was just, like, in my feelings, but I was like, oh, Bruce.
Yeah.
And, like, that was fine for me. But, yeah, the faith was a little much. But then at the same time, I think that Ben Affleck's Batman, like, they have taken the time to show that he's really, like, going through something.
I failed him. In life. I won't fail him in death.
But yeah, it's definitely not your traditional Batman.
And Affleck sells it. I'm not, I think Affleck definitely sells it.
Yeah.
It's just, it's an odd character choice.
He reminds me of like a dad that's like old, that's like, oh, my kids are grown up. I gotta like fix all this stuff now and be like optimistic. And it's like he's having like a midlife crisis almost.
No.
Where do we go next?
Russia.
So Batman drops off the League, takes off to go try to take down the dome.
Which is a great Batman sequence. People asked going into this, before they got a chance to see it, of do we get a comparable Batman in the warehouse scene? Mm-hmm. And you don't. There's not like a great Batman hand-to-hand fight. A little bit with the Parademons when they're infiltrating the little base under Gotham Harbor. Yeah, a little bit of that. This instead is a full-blown like Batmobile, and all of its arsenal versus the Parademons. And I could go back and rewatch this sequence 1,000 times because it's
epic.
Yeah. But what I love about it too is that, you you step back and take a look at this threat from another world or realm and the parademons and how difficult they are, and Batman's just a dude. Like, he's just a dude with all this tech, and how is he going to be the distraction, you know, that keeps the parademons away from the League? And I think this just does an incredible job of showing what he can accomplish when he's got a souped up Batmobile.
Yes.
And is racing around the town. So very cool.
Yes, and I still love Aquaman surfing down on a parademon, crashing through the building. Like, everybody just gets such a cool moment.
Did we talk about yet the team freeze frame moment?
No, we have not.
With them going through the building? Let's bring that up because I want to ask you if you think that is a
Marvel
FU.
ripoff?
Yeah, an FU to Joss Whedon who did that with Age of Ultron.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't think about it in that way. First of all, it's just cool, and it looks way better than the one in Age of Ultron. But yeah, I mean, I kind of like when Marvel, like all the Marvel movies do that. I don't mind it. I think it's fun.
Yeah. This is what you do when you have superhero teams. You get them into a moment when they can pose. It's held for just the right amount of time. If there's one disappointment about it, is that it's a League shot and Superman's not in it because he hasn't been introduced.
I just miss him.
It's a cool moment. I like it.
Yes, I do too. Okay, so now we get, once they kind of defeat that initial, I don't know, round of parademons, I guess, we get a break and we go to Superman meeting Alfred.
Okay, cool moment. Don't need it. I guess in a way it's there to establish how Superman knows where they are. Superman also shouldn't have to swing by Alfred's place to figure out where the League went. Like, hey, where'd the League go? It's a cool scene, but in that moment, when we have entered into the epic conclusion, I didn't need a pit stop over to Alfred's garage.
I do love the way that Jeremy Irons plays that, though.
Now let's hope you're not too late.
The sass Alfred throws, I love it.
But it feels like a scene that was shot for the trailer or for Zack to show earlier, you know, because like, here's Superman showing up for the first time. Or he had instead wanted the flip side of it, which is the Alfred saying like,
You said you'd come.
You know what Alfred should have been doing while Bruce was over in Russia trying to stop the Steppenwolf from taking over the planet? Monitor the situation and not tinker on your car. Like, isn't he like working on the motor of the car? Alfred should be pretty busy monitoring the situation.
And you know what? In theatrical cut, he is. Like, Alfred is monitoring the situation. And yeah, that's interesting.
Very much so.
That's a good point. Yeah, I would have loved some Alfred help.
In this one, they do like a little montage, and Alfred's like taking out the bottle of whiskey, and he's pouring himself a drink.
Huh.
I'm nitpicking.
Again.
So now we get back to the battle. We get Wonder Woman, Cyborg, and Aquaman confronting Steppenwolf.
Shall we?
Yeah, first time through watching this, I was riveted. I was truly riveted to how this was going to play out. Like, it felt like multiple times when the League was going to lose. You know, it did feel like they were kind of overwhelmed. But you're right, and this is something that we almost teased a couple of times leading into this movie and getting to see it for the first time, was how are they going to figure out how to work together? Because we joked repeatedly that in theatrical cut, there's too many times where they just don't collaborate.
Yeah.
You know, they never figure out how to play off of each other as a team. And there's so many great instances in this final battle, especially when Cyborg and Wonder Woman and Aquaman are taking on Steppenwolf to distract him from stopping Cyborg. Mm-hmm. Just great fight choreography and really great sense of place, you know, and where the heroes are supposed to be. It's so much more effective. It's so much.
And the pacing too, like you were saying, like it keeps you like on the edge of your seat throughout the whole thing, which is really hard to do, especially when you've seen this theoretically already.
Yeah. And so many of these final superhero battles can be just CGI messes of, you know, let's like think of not to throw Michael Bay under the bus, but think of like a Transformers fight sequence, you know?
No, I don't want to.
Where it's just, where is the camera even, you know? Like Zack, when he directs these, is very deliberate about where he is with his camera and what he's showing.
I would love to see the storyboards for the entire Part 6 battle.
Yeah. And don't you assume, like, I know he's drawn all of this stuff because he talks about how he films exactly what he draws.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I bet it took forever. Oh my God.
Great vision of how things should play out. So.
Not impressed.
How do you feel about not impressed as his first line? Same.
Not impressed.
But I like it better than.
I believe in truth. But I'm also a big fan of justice.
Yeah, that is a shit line.
Yeah.
But I don't love not impressed. I don't love it. It's a cool moment, and I wanted a better. That could have.
What could he have said? Like, what would you have liked to hear? Do you have any ideas?
Can I ask you a question?
I hate you.
I have no idea.
Never write a screenplay. Oh God.
I have no idea, but he needed a triumphant, arrival line, and he didn't get a triumphant arrival line. So. But
I do love how just like from the get-go, Superman basically just like flicks Steppenwolf off of him.
Oh yeah. It's great I've rewatched that sequence now a bunch of times, and Steppenwolf is just out of his class. Yeah. Like, he gets Zack's frozen, he gets kicked into the wall.
All right.
We've got Flash running around trying to create that energy surge.
Barry, are you okay?
Do you want to talk about that really quick?
Love that element of it. Love that element of it because instead of doing the I'm a coward who's afraid of fighting, it's a great way for him to, so he gets blasted and he has to stop running even though he's built up all of this energy.
Barry, I got the wind knocked out of me. Need a few seconds, that's all.
In that line delivery shows that he's vulnerable, that he's still this kid, right? Like, that's the line that says to me, like, oh, you are so inexperienced and you really do want to try your best in order to make this happen. I thought that was phenomenal. A great way to sort of break his momentum.
Yeah, I was going to say, I do like that it kind of gives you a moment to breathe as a viewer, because it's like you've been on the edge of your seat, and then it's like, oh, yes. Okay, like we've got that, take it. Like, Superman's here, we're fine over there. Like, yeah.
But let's take this moment to discuss how very, very wrong we were about how we thought like Barry was going to just run through time and run through the whole movie.
I don't know if did I say this during I don't think I did, but when we were talking about when I was watching the Gotham Harbor battle for the first time, we knew that, because I had suggested that maybe when Barry like hits Diana's sword towards her in that fight, that he was time traveling, and when that didn't happen, I was like, oh. I was completely wrong.
Or the 214 image of him running over the tops of the people when all he was really doing was like catching pieces of brick.
Gee, Sean, do you think we were reading into the Snyder Cut way too much?
We might have been hyping it up quite, because he does, to be fair, he does time travel.
Yes, just not to the extent.
No. He time travels for about 10 seconds and not through the entire film. But we do get to see a speculation play out, which we did think, which is the League fails. The mother box does synchronize and the unity is complete. It blows up, essentially. Barry runs back through time, restores everything.
Just gotta go faster than the speed of light, far beyond the speed of light. You gotta break the rule, Barry, and you've gotta do it now.
Which is, again, the hat tip to the mother box coming out of the Kryptonian goo, because you're just like, oh, this is how Barry did it. Puts everybody back together, powers Victor into the mother box and into the unity, and Cyborg gets his moment to say,
I'm not broken. And I'm not alone.
Which I'm going to assume worked very, very well for you.
It did. All of Cyborg's stuff pretty much worked really well for me.
Period.
Then we get the moment where himself and the versions of his parents are turning into the sorceress things again. And I was like, oh, that's right. They're kind of from the history lesson.
Oh, see, I didn't even get that. Okay, that makes more sense. I just assumed
when he says I'm not alone, he says I'm not alone, and he begins to separate the three forces of the unity, and the three sources of the unity are those three sorceresses from the history lesson.
Okay.
But that all flies by like super fast.
Faster than the speed of light.
Barry.
So then we get Steppenwolf's death. What'd you think of that?
It's phenomenal. It's great because it's teamwork again. You know, Arthur stabs him with the trident. We finally get to see Superman deliver the punch. When Wonder Woman is jumping through the air, again, not to keep doing this, but that's used in theatrical, right?
Yes.
But when?
It's right after they separate the mother boxes and like Steppenwolf's like,
This world is my right.
Oh, what a crime, you know? That like they had this amazing way to dispose of the villain, and Joss is like, well, how about we just take this instead? But like,
and have parademons eat him alive.
Awful. So Steppenwolf gets beheaded. His head goes through the boom tube. It lands at Darkseid's feet. Darkseid steps on his skull.
Yes, I loved that little detail. I was like, damn, Darkseid.
But you know what I wanted? Because it's almost like the minute he got his head chopped off, that he like mummified or, you know, like turned into some other thing. Like when Darkseid stepped on his skull, I wanted to see like goo.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I wanted a good old R-rated, you know, Darkseid steps on his skull and it's like goo.
Oozing.
Yeah. That's what I was hoping for, and we didn't get it. So they, you know, Darkseid looks through the boom tube, sees this team, and essentially is being told like, all right, if I'm ever to go back after that planet, that's what I'm going to be up against. Then he quickly turns around to Desaad and says,
Ready the Armada. We will use the old ways.
And we get ready for Justice League Part 2. All right, let's go. When are we getting this? When are we getting this sequel, Hannah?
I think that depends on what happens. By the time this airs, never mind. We might know by the time this airs. Isn't that crazy?
You never know.
I would love
They could announce it pretty quickly.
Well, so here's a question. If Justice League 2 is all Nightmare, do you think we'd even get that much Darkseid in this present timeline? Or do you think it would be like a flash forward and then...
Well, there was a 5-film arc, and this was supposed to be 3, right? So there's so much stuff that would theoretically have to happen in order for, like, I don't know if you can do an entire movie in the Nightmare. I think you can do a lot of it in the Nightmare, but you still have to advance what's happening in the contemporary day, which would be Darkseid coming here. So I don't know. I have no idea what he wants to do moving forward, because that doesn't even touch on the stuff that Lex was planning, and we'll get to all this stuff in the epilogue too. But the Deathstroke stuff from the epilogue was going to be teasing the Batman movie that's not happening as of right now, because him revealing Bruce Wayne's identity to him was supposed to set up that film. So yeah, there's a lot of story still that you could potentially get to if you wanted to.
But
that's all that happens with this,
right?
This is the end of it. Steppenwolf is done. They come up, they stand on the top of the thing. The Flying Fox comes back around, and that's the end of Chapter 6. Terrific end. Great team shot, you know, showing them together finally as a league, and phenomenal way to end Chapter 6.
Well, so what I was going to say is, what if this is where it ended? Because everything, well, I guess that monologue from Chapter 7 would have still been there, but this is pretty much the end.
Yeah, this is pretty much the end, and I would have been totally fine with it. And even I can remember the way it played out the first time we watched the movie, when it cut to black before it came up with the epilogue. Michelle was like, that was great. And then it came up again. She's like, well, there's more. And I said, yes, it's like 30 more minutes. Settle in. You're not going anywhere just yet. So, I thought that was a perfect way for it to end. It's a good, perfect hero shot, and got rid of the main villain and didn't tease out everything else that's due to come. But the epilogue, which we will get to in our next video, is very heavily into, yes, closure on all of this and putting a button on it, but definitely laying out the threads that could potentially get picked up. So why don't we get back together for our next video, Hannah? The final video in the breakdown series of Zack Snyder's 4-Hour Justice League. The epilogue video, we will have it back here ready for you guys to watch very, very soon. To make sure that you don't miss it, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on your notifications. And if you're here on CinemaBlend, just keep it here, because we're going to have tons of great Snyder Cut coverage still to come to the site.